In the world of Minecraft, there are 3 different components that transmit redstone. These 3 components are called transmission components, and those redstone components are going to include redstone dust, repeaters, and also comparators. The redstone dust and the repeaters were mostly covered in previous segments of this series. However, I'm going to be covering them in more detail, so there is going to be some overlap. We did already go over most of everything with the redstone dust, and with the repeaters down here, we already went over a lot of their functionality too. Now I am going to do a quick refresher on both of these. With the redstone dust, we have pretty much covered just about everything with it. However, with the repeaters, although we covered quite a bit of stuff, there are still some things that we need to go over. So a brief recap, the redstone dust transmits a redstone signal, and depending on how strongly that signal is powering the redstone dust is how far it can be powered. Redstone dust can be powered all the way up to a maximum of 15, as seen here. However, if we go to 16, you can see it's not going to power that block. On Bedrock Edition, the redstone dust will not prioritize the component that is closer to the power source. As you can see here, that leads to randomization. The redstone dust can be destroyed by a piston coming in contact with the hitbox, and it can also be destroyed by flowing water. Redstone dust can not only be flat, but it can also go up and down different items, and it can also be cut off by solid blocks without breaking the line because it does not come in contact with the hitbox. However, if there is a transparent block that is breaking the connection with the redstone, it actually will not break it and it will allow it to flow through. And this also includes piston heads as well. If your redstone signal needs to be further than 15 blocks, then you can use a repeater to multiply it, as you can see here. This repeater can take any power redstone signal going into the back of it and turn it into a 15 redstone signal coming out of the front of it. However, while using a repeater, you are going to inherit some kind of delay for every repeater that you use. This delay is going to be based on the setting on the repeater, going anywhere from the default 1 tick delay all the way up to a redstone 4 tick delay. You can make a vertical line with redstone dust going all the way up using glass and a few other transparent blocks. However, some transparent blocks only allow for a one-way system, so you can see the redstone dust is going up. However, if we put a lever up here, you can see it's only going to power the redstone dust that's directly above it and not below it. We also covered the redstone tick settings, which is marked by the repeaters in front of me. This one's going to be the standard 1 tick delay, 2 tick delay, 3 tick delay, and 4 tick delay. As mentioned, do not get these confused, these are redstone ticks, not regular game ticks. 1 redstone tick is equivalent to 2 game ticks, and you can see the difference of the delay circuits here. However, all of these are adjustable and you can use these in conjunction with other repeaters. As you can see here, we have repeaters that are above canceling out the repeaters that are below. So this is a 1 tick delay, this is a 4 tick delay, 2 tick delay, 3 tick delay, 3 tick delay, 2 tick delay, and 4 tick delay, 1 tick delay. All 4 rows here are going to end up with a 5 redstone tick delay, which is going to be equal to a half a second. As mentioned, whatever redstone power signal goes into the input of the repeater, the output is going to output a signal strength of 15 every time. And you can see that demonstrated here. Now we're pretty much all caught up, let's get into the juicy bits. Now this lesson here is going to cover everything inside of this fenced area, which is going to just be the repeaters. Next episode we're going to be covering the comparators, which are over there. The repeater will always hard power whatever solid block is on the output of the repeater. So as you can see, if we hit this lever here, this repeater is going to hard power that block, which is going to soft power the redstone dust, powering that piston. However, keep in mind, on the repeater you only have a input on it and a output, and then there's also the sides, which is going to be an auxiliary function. We're going to talk about that shortly. However, in order to access this auxiliary function, you are going to need a second repeater, and that is going to be the only way that you can utilize it. So trying to put a piece of redstone dust in, as you can see, it's not going to change anything, and it's not going to make anything special happen. So to simplify this, unless you have a repeater going into the side of it, you are only going to have an input and an output. Now as mentioned, the repeater will hard power whatever block comes out of the output of it, so if there's a block here, that's going to be hard powered. However, there are some components that cannot be hard powered, such as redstone dust, or even piston. So if we place a piston here, and I'll place another one next to it, as you can see, if I power that, it's not going to power both, it's only going to power the one that's directly in front of it. Now as mentioned, any block on the output of the repeater is going to be hard powered, so if we place that there, it's going to hard power that block just like it should. However, things like redstone dust and components cannot be hard powered, so if we power that with the repeater, it's actually going to soft power that line, and then power that piston. Bear in mind that there are a few different components that will act like they're hard powered, like these note blocks here. As you can see, I have a single line going into the center, and although they are only being soft powered, all 3 of them are being powered. And this works the exact same way if we use lamps instead. As you can see, they're all being powered. We are also not able to power transparent blocks, as covered in previous lessons, so we're not going to get any power output on the other side there. Now one function that's pretty cool about the repeater is it can actually take a signal from a soft powered block and turn it into a hard power. So as you can see here, we can turn this lever on, which is going to hard power this block, soft powering this redstone, soft powering this block, which is going to then power the repeater, because it's able to pull the soft power from here and amplify it into what could be a hard power, depending on the block that's in front of it. In this case, we have the redstone dust, which is going to be soft powered, which is going to soft power this lamp. The redstone repeater can also pull power out of hard powered blocks, so if we hard power this block here, it's going to pull that power out of that hard power block, soft powering that redstone dust and powering that lamp. And we can of course soft power that repeater directly, which is going to amplify it, turning it into a hard power, soft powering this redstone line, and then running down powering the lamp. This is showing the ability for this to travel upwards. However, since this block here is hard powered, we can also have the signal travel downwards as well. Now for that auxiliary function that I was talking about. These are called locking repeaters. And the locking repeater does exactly what the name says, it locks the repeater. However, you can manipulate the timing on both of these repeaters to make it do pretty much whatever you want. So if we turn this lever on, you can see we have power going out there. And then we can lock this one here, which is going to power this repeater, locking this repeater. And that's going to pretty much lock the repeater in whatever state that it's in. So then you can see that I can unpower this, and it's going to continue powering that because that repeater is locked in the power state. However, as soon as we unpower this, it's going to release that lock, which is going to release the power state and unpower the redstone. However, we can also do this opposite, so if we turn this one on first, it's going to lock that repeater in the unpowered state, and then we can give it power, but because it is locked in the unpowered state, it's not going to have any power passing through it. Well, how is this useful? Well, a lot of people don't really know how this is useful, and they really don't get used too much. However, they really should be used a ton, and I'll show you why. Because as long as you understand how they work and when to use them, they are one fantastic tool. Now, as mentioned, redstone dust will not allow the repeater to lock, so you can turn this on, and as you can see, it's not going to lock that at all. However, if we change that out for a repeater, then we get that locking ability, which is going to be indicated by this bar here, and then you can still, of course, adjust whatever delay that you want. So one of the first things that I want to show you is this setup here. This setup here is going to basically limit the amount of pulses that are coming through here. So if we have two really quick pulses in succession, you can see the first one goes through. However, the second pulse, since this repeater over here is on a slower delay, it's going to be a little slower, allowing that first pulse to go through. However, that second pulse is going to be locked in the off position and not allow that second pulse to go through. Now, why in the world would that be useful? Well, let me show you. One of the most common uses for this is going to be a observer-based smart piston. However, let me demonstrate why this is necessary. If I place down a block here, that's going to update that observer. However, this observer is going to power this, sending out this piston. And whenever this piston is sent out, then it's going to update the observer and basically make it go into a continuous loop. For a smart piston, this is not really going to do what you want it to, because you're only going to want this to pulse one time every time that a block is placed in front of it. So now if we place in some locking repeaters, you can see every time that I place down a block here, it's going to pulse 2 or 3 times. However, it's going to break off that lever and only extend that piston one time. That's because the first pulse is going through, extending that piston. However, all of the following pulses after that are being locked out from reaching the redstone. And that basically means that every time we have a block placed in front of that observer, it's going to update and push it. Now the timing on these are going to be very specific, so I highly recommend keeping these inside of the same chunk and not having them cross any chunk borders. These repeaters are timed to the specific timing that it's going to take for this piston to go out and back in. So if you can see, we have a button on top of this piston which is going to put out a longer pulse than what it's timed to. And if we do that, it's going to extend, come back in, and then we're going to get a double pulse, and that's only because this is not timed to it. However, if we go over here and we extend that to a 4 redstone tick delay and then hit that again, you can see that the piston is going to kind of go crazy. However, because this button is going to be activated longer, we can add in some more repeaters here. And as you can see, this repeater here is on 3 redstone ticks delay, and this one over here is on a 4 redstone tick delay, giving us a total of 7 redstone ticks of delay. So adding in this second repeater is going to properly time it for this button. So now if we hit that, you can see that it locks out that repeater for that second pulse. And in case you were wondering, this original circuit that I showed you is going to be timed based on a 1 tick redstone pulse, which is going to be delivered by that observer. Or we can use this rising edge monostable circuit in order to pulse it with a 1 tick redstone pulse from an external source. Now as shown, these are great because they do work with transparent blocks. However, if you have a regular hard powered smart piston, like the one right here, then we can disconnect that one there, that way the observer is not interfering. Because a transparent block does not transmit any redstone, it's actually not going to activate that smart piston, so these are only going to work with solid blocks. And with this circuit here, you can see just how handy that is. Now I do have this to where it's pretty much a piston feed tape, and these are all inside of the loaded position to where it's actually putting pressure on this line, pushing in towards this observer. But because this observer has not been updated, it's not going to push that out at all. And it's not going to push it this way because we have an obsidian block right there, which is immovable. Just like the skulk sensor, which is also immovable. So if we go over here and we give this piston a update, as you can see, it's going to update it. And it's just going to push all of those out, just like so. Which is a very, very, very handy function for any kind of feed tape, any kind of block transport, or any kind of cubing machine. And this is basically one of many different types of smart pistons. You need to build them a little bit different depending on how you're setting them up inside of your circuit, because some might work in some places where others won't work. So what we basically have going on here is we are putting down a solid block here, which is going to be hard powered by that redstone dust, which is going to soft power that piston, pushing that glass, pushing that redstone block, which is going to be pushed over briefly over top of this redstone line, which is going to soft power that, which is going to power the solid block, powering that piston, and pushing that redstone block back. But at the exact same time, it's also going to be powering this repeater with a slight delay, which is then going to power the smart piston. So you can see that in action if I place that down there. And this over here is basically the exact same thing. Now, depending on how you set up the settings on these two repeaters, you can cause this to pretty much do whatever you want. Well, I mean in a locking sense. You can't have it order you a milkshake or anything. However, there is a different configuration that you can use as well, which is going to be this one over here. So as you can see, if we hit this button, it's going to power this redstone dust, which is going to power this repeater, which is going to hard power this block here, which is going to soft power the redstone dust, powering this repeater, which is going to lock this repeater inside of the powered state. Because it is locked inside of the powered state, it is never going to lose power, which means that it's never going to unpower any of this, locking this repeater. Which means that we can take a pulse and then turn it into a solid signal that will last however long you want until we move this block. Over here we have the sticky piston here, which is powered by this redstone torch. And then since it is on a solid block, we can hard power the solid block, turning off that redstone torch, releasing that piston, moving that block, which is then going to unpower everything here, turning off our power signal. And to demonstrate that, we can hit that button, and as you can see, it turned off the power. So this is going to be a circuit very similar to a T flip-flop, except it has two buttons. So once again, we can hit that button. It's going to hold that power as long as we want, and then we can use this button over here in order to release it. Well guys, I hope that you enjoyed this lesson. In the next lesson tomorrow, we're going to be going over the comparators over there, which is pretty in-depth, so it deserves the lesson all by itself. As always, if you guys have any questions, then drop a comment down below, or you can also message me on my public Discord channel. This is free to join and everybody is welcome. Also, down inside of the description there is a link for the Bedrock wiki, which is full of all kinds of information for all of these different components. There will also not be a world download inside of this description, however on the lesson tomorrow there is going to be a world download for both of these. So if you're interested in that, then make sure that you don't miss the episode tomorrow. While you're down inside of the description trying to find those links, drop a like while you're down there. It really does help out the channel, and it helps new people find my content. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye.